Let me introduce next. So one of the things that we'd like to be able to leave the conference with is an idea of where we look for new partners, because obviously in the public sector, resources have shrunk at every level, at the level of commitment and capability for decision has shrunk at some levels. But at the local level, the problems continue and the need for collaboration and new partners continues. So we just looked around for new partners. And John, can you tell me which of these things we may want? I think you're over here.
Let's see, which one? So first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to come talk to you today. I'm John Pflueger. I work at Dell as Dell's Principal Environmental Strategist in our Corporate Responsibility Group, and this will be a little different. By the way, the El Paso presentation is stunning. So I like what you guys did. So this will be a little different. This is a corporate presentation. I actually have kind of several different hats today that I want to wear. One, obviously I want to tell you a little bit about what our plan and what we've done in terms of establishing some long-term sustainability goals for Dell as a company. But I also would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about what it means for me as an employee to work for a company that is willing to make these sorts of commitments. And also talk a little bit about the process that we went through in order to identify what these goals should be and get a $60 billion company to agree to goals that go out to the end of the decade. Last, because I'm a very big fan of energy efficiency, Tom, I'm going to give a slightly different miniature presentation at the end, talking about some of the things we've done from an innovation point of view that, while they weren't done explicitly for Texas, happen to be the sorts of technologies that IT organizations in Texas can take advantage of. So once again, a little context. We started on this journey about 3 years ago when we recognized that our approach to sustainability and our approach to social and environmental issues was too reactive and too insular, that a lot of our goals, a lot of what we were doing, were focused on things that happened within the four walls of Dell. And as well, and while I appreciate the goals of organizations such as Greenpeace, we were very reactive to what some of the NGOs were doing. Greenpeace would hang a banner on the side of our building. We would react. Another organization from Ceres would talk to us. We would react. And while we respect their goals and we respect what they're trying to do, at the end of the day, what Dell is about its customers. And we realized that we needed to move our strategy to something that was far more focused on what is it that Dell can do to help its customers meet their goals. And so we wanted to get off of that reactive side. And the other thing we realized is that our footprint as a company, our environmental footprint, our social footprint, extends way upstream into what's going on in our supply chain and way downstream into what's going on in our customers' facilities. And even beyond, which I'll talk to a little bit about what our customers are doing with our products. And when we actually look and do some estimates of our own Scope 3, Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 carbon emissions calculations, we find out that even without super accurate numbers, our four walls emissions, our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, are about 3% of our overall footprint. And it's really what goes on before stuff gets inside of our walls and what happens to our product after it leaves our facility, which is really where the footprint is. So I'm going to try firing up a little video. We've announced in October at the Verge conference in San Francisco, we announced a suite of 21 long-term sustainability-related goals going out to 2020 that cover every aspect of the business, from our traditional operations to our supply chain, to the footprints that our customers have as a result of using our product and beyond. I'll play the cool video because I really like it, and then we'll get back and I'll discuss some of the details and maybe talk about what this means. So this is, it's hard for me not to be a little choked up about it. I like my company, I'm proud of my company, I work for it, but as an individual who cares about sustainability-related issues, and as an employee of a company that cares about sustainability-related issues, it has been an honor both to be able to work on a program like this and see the results of it. So now, Tom, how do I get to the actual, where are we? Oh, I think I got it though. I think I got it. Once again. So that's like I said, we announced this in October at the Verge 2013 conference. I mentioned before that we made a conscious decision that our strategy needed to change, and that what should be the number one thing in our strategy is making sure that we understand what our footprint is, and we take care of what we are responsible for from a corporate responsibility point of view, and that we really look at what our customers are looking to have us do and what our customers want us to do. And the end result, as you saw in the video, was a set of corporate goals that span the entire business, from everything from facilities to operations to products to how we develop solutions, and even beyond to understanding what is it that our customers are looking to do with the products, with our products. And this was different if you go back 3 or 4 years ago. Every time we announced a sustainability goal or environmental goal, it was siloed. We did a great job of reducing laptop and desktop energy consumption by 40% between 2007 and 2012. But it was siloed. There was no bigger framework. There was no bigger context. It was an individual goal. We've done a great job and are either among the best or at the best in our industry of taking back product that is no longer used and making sure that it is disposed of in a responsible manner when it's reached end of life. Great goal, but once again, kind of siloed and independent. And as we were looking at the strategy, we really wanted to develop a set of goals that all worked together. And at the end of the day, we were not the first to do this, although we're among the initial wave. We became what I would call a net positive company, which is a company that's committed to making sure that the benefits of the use of its product are positive when you compare it with the footprint. And for those of us who are in my part of the sustainability-related business, this is an approach that I'd say has really been piloted and started by BT in the UK, Kingfisher, which is kind of like Home Depot for Europe, IKEA, and a number of organizations that have come to the same realization that if we're going to address some of these problems, we need a payback, right? You can think of the energy that goes into Dell products and the materials that go into Dell products, even the carbon emissions resulting from the energy that goes into Dell products as an investment. We are investing the consumption of these resources in something, and we need to make sure that we're going to get a return for that in terms of reduced carbon emissions elsewhere, reduced energy consumption elsewhere, reduced material consumption elsewhere, or social good in some way, shape, or form. So, at least in part inspired, anybody here familiar with an organization called the Global E-Sustainability Initiative, or GESI? It's primarily a European organization that's been looking at these issues. They released a report a year or so ago called the Smarter 2020 report, which was a discussion of a wide variety of ways in which information technology can be applied to address social and environmental issues. And we looked at that. Jesse's conclusion was that the potential for information and communications technologies is to mitigate 7 times the carbon emissions of the sector. And we took a look at that, and knowing some other things that we know about social good and about things around water and materials, we said, look, we're going to make this a nice round number. And so when we look at our commitment, we're going to commit to achieving the potential that organizations like Jesse have set out for our industry, and we want to make it a nice round number. We want to make it something that's ambitious and something that is aspirational. The goals that we set for ourselves, it's not just carbon emissions. It'll be carbon, it'll be water, but it's also going to be other issues around people and planet, and they go into 3 big areas. One being the environment, and this is the area where I spend most of my time. Another being communities, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and another being people and how we relate to our own employee base, and we'll show some of that. Within each one of these sectors, environment, communities, and people, we have a number of goals. As we were working over the last 3 years to develop these, and really intensely over the last 18 months to develop these, we would go into organizations within Dell that were always a bit nervous about establishing some sort of long-term goal. Is how do I know what I can commit to in 2020 when I have trouble looking a year and a half out? And gosh, what happens if we don't meet it? There's a lot of concern about sticking one's neck out that far in the future. And so we got asked a lot, why? Why did we want to establish the sorts of goals that we did? And really there are what I would call 5 main reasons. I'll start with some of the smaller ones first, in that, kind of the first and maybe the least important of the 5 is it's a really great brand play. I love this. I love what it says about Dell. I get to go talk about it. I'm excited about it. It gets other people excited about my company and what my company is doing. And there are some great stories in there, some of which directly relate to energy efficiency. One of which I'm really proud of is a consultancy called EMD International in the Netherlands that architects wind farms. And they use Dell high-performance compute clusters to optimize the placement of wind turbines on wind farms for maximum production of energy. And this is not something we're responsible for, but it's something where we play a part and we enable it. And these stories are fantastic. So the number one reason that we were interested in this was really from, the first reason, and the least important, is the brand play. I'd say the second has to do with innovation, which is once you give engineers a metric and a target, now they start thinking, what can I do? Hey, I got this goal. All right, I want to do a little bit better. And it becomes a crystallization point or a nexus for innovation within the company. And this is something we really want to incent and really want to drive within Dell over the rest of the decade. I'd say the third, now we'll start to get something more interesting, is that a lot of our customers have to make their own projections. They know where they're going from an information technology point of view. What are their energy needs going to be 3 years out, and 5 years out, and 6 years out? Are they prepared? Are they okay? Are they going to need other facilities? Are they going to need to be able to shed facilities? And our being able to look out in the future at the energy consumption of our products helps them with their own plans. So now we start to get to the really interesting stuff. The 2 or 3 days after we released our plan and we made it public, we had a lot of reach in Twitter. We had a lot of stuff flowing around through the blogosphere and through social media. And there was a great fraction of it that were our own employees. Our own employees being proud of, pull myself together for a moment, being proud of the company they work for, that we would be willing to make this sort of a commitment. And when you're looking at employee retention, you're looking at a talent pool, a competitive talent pool, you want that edge. You want people to come to work for your company, not only because they're pulling a paycheck and they're pulling a salary, but because they feel like the work that they're doing is valuable. And then I mentioned before the customer. And really, we listen to the customer. And so when I went into our enterprise product group and talked about the importance of establishing an energy efficiency goal, the number one reason I talked to them about it is because our customers are asking us for it. They are asking us as Dell what our long-term commitment is to people and the planet. And our customers are asking, and we have to respond, and we have to tell them. And that really was, I would say, the final straw that I wouldn't necessarily say broke the camel's back, but really pushed us into action to develop this. So how am I doing on time, by the way, Tom? Because I will consume the microphone as it is allowed to me. All right, so we can speed this up a little bit. There's a lot of detail in here. You're going to post this, so a lot of the detail is in here. I do want to talk about the top level goal. We talked about this notion of net positive, and there are 2 pieces to net positive. The denominator is your footprint. What is it that you're consuming in terms of energy? What is it that you're consuming, you're putting into the air in terms of carbon? What are you consuming in terms of water? And we're doing a pretty good job of understanding that footprint. As a matter of fact, in some sense, of the 20 goals that are underneath the one big aspirational goal, 19 of them deal with footprint in one way, shape, or form. And that's because the numerator, which is the benefit that comes for our products, is not well understood and not easy to measure, and we're just learning how to do this today. How do you measure, and I think you guys were discussing some of this. I think, Jeff, you were discussing some of this about how do you measure the mitigation benefits of technologies or policies or approaches? You know, how do you measure the reduction in emissions or the stuff that didn't happen, right? And this is a challenge. And so one of our 20 goals is, and we know it's a long-term journey, is how do we get started on that measurement? And we also understand something else. If we come up with a measurement scheme by ourselves, and it's the Dell official IT benefits measurement scheme, everybody's going to go, that's really interesting, and they're going to go on about their business, because this is not a problem that we can solve ourselves, nor is it a problem that we can expect other people to see us as being the lead in solving. This is going to be something where we have to collaborate. And we've already made the commitment to work with our competitors in looking at some of these things and figuring out how to measure and manage them. We're going to be working with our suppliers, and what I would consider most of all, we have to be working with our customers. We're actively looking for those Dell customers who are interested in these problems themselves, interested in measuring these benefits, and interested in working with us in putting in place some systems, possibly some standards and specifications for how we measure this. Because I mentioned earlier, we want a return on that investment, and there's no way we can begin to calculate a return on that investment until we can just get the basic handle on how we measure these benefits. So, like I said, if you're in need of a sleep aid, it's all really nice stuff. You're welcome to go pour through these things in detail. I will talk about one I think that's going to be of interest to this room. In particular, and it's also one that I probably put the most time in on over the last year and a half, is a commitment to energy efficiency. And we went and took a look across the entire product set: laptops, desktops, tablets, thin clients, servers, storage, networking. Took a look at what we thought we could do. And so at the end of the day, it actually turned out to be about the same number for all parts of the business. We believe we can reduce the energy intensity across our entire product portfolio by 80% between now and the end of the decade. So for a certain amount of work, if you try to do 6 database transactions today and 6 database transactions in 2020, the amount of energy you will have had to put into your IT equipment in 2020 to do that will be 20% of what it is today. As a matter of fact, it's very interesting. If you go back, I did some back-of-the-envelope calculations a year and a half ago, that if you actually tried to do everything we do today in terms of compute, all Google servers, Apple servers, Yahoo servers, Amazon servers, ours, Intel's, you tried to do all of this work, the work we do today, if you tried doing it using 2004, 2005 equipment, there was not enough energy in the world to have generated that much compute power with the technology that was available then. So, like I said, this is one of the things we look at. It's really, I don't know that our energy footprint is going to go down, because I don't know how the needs for computation are going to increase between now and the decade. But what we are going to commit to is we're going to make sure that for every piece of work you're trying to do, we're going to reduce the energy required to perform that piece of work by 80%. There's a lot of other detail in here. I do want to talk about a couple of specific things related, once again, to energy efficiency and talking about innovation. And these are a couple of things we've done around fresh air cooling. Before I was in the sustainability organization at Dell, I was one of our subject matter experts in data center energy efficiency and power consumption. And about 4, 5, 6 years ago, one of the things that we were looking at, what is it about data centers that consumes energy? Why do data centers and servers consume 2% of the United States electricity production? And a big piece of that at that time was power and cooling, and you see this great hot exhaust air coming out of these servers because we're doing so much work, and then we turn around and we take that great hot exhaust air, and because we need to turn it around and put it back into the front of the server, we'll put it up to the ceiling, we'll funnel it down to the floor, we'll cool it, and we'll put it back in. Why am I cooling exhaust air at 107 degrees Fahrenheit when it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit outside? And so really the industry began looking at the whole notion of fresh air cooling, about really helping cooling and making cooling more efficient a few years ago. And we decided to do a little bit of extra exploration, which is how hot can you run our servers? What sort of environment can our servers run in, our storage environment, and networking environment? And we found they were actually far more robust than we thought they were. And so we created a new warranty option for some of our customers that says, hey, you know what, we know weather doesn't behave on a set schedule. We also know, even though it's going to be ridiculously hot in Austin for a few days in the summer, that it's only a few days and it's only for a few hours each day. And because we've discovered that our servers are nice and robust, we can warranty them for operation at up to 113 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 hours a year. Now, when we take a look, and another hat that I wear is I represent Dell on the Green Grid's board of directors, and Green Grid looks at a lot of things around data center energy efficiency and power consumption. And a while back, it took a look at how many hours a year you could get fresh air cooling in data centers using kind of climatic data and typical data about the environment inside the data center. And if you take a look at that nice little red area, there's a whole big part of Texas that's nice and red and yellow and orange. And, you know, yes, you can run it today in Austin and San Antonio. It's nice and cool outside. But you don't get much more than 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hours a year of fresh air cooling in Texas. And then we took a look at what we could do around allowing our customers to run their machines at up to 113 degrees for 90 hours a year, or I think it was up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit for 900 hours a year. The map on the right became the map for fresh air cooling, which all of a sudden said that for practically the entire year, 24/7, 365, you can operate a data center in Texas without using a chiller. So this is, once again, some of the other things that the innovative things that we're really excited about. This is a hothouse that we have. We not only talk about this stuff, we actually believe it. You know, we've got a hothouse sitting in the middle of our parking lot up in Austin. You can drive by and go see it with a whole rack of servers that are just running happy, happy, happy without a chiller or any sort of other native air conditioning involved in the building all year long. Another piece that we do, which I'm very proud of as well from an innovation point of view, are modular data centers, where another realization that we had is, hey, we have all these purpose-built buildings. You know, data centers, brick and mortar, we're going to build all these buildings. Why don't we build them inside a factory and tightly control the architecture and see what we can do? And so there's been a movement in our industry towards modular data centers, and a particularly innovative IT gentleman from eBay by the name of Dean Nelson gave some of us a challenge, and he said, hey, I'm putting data centers in Chandler, Arizona on the 4th floor rooftop of a building for eBay, and I want you to run them off of fresh air. And both we and one of our competitors were able to successfully do that, and so the technology is now available so that we can operate in Chandler, Arizona, of all places, year-round. Now that particular one has an evaporative cooler in it, but we're using a fairly small amount of water to get all the cooling that we need for that year-long. And it's architected not on site, but architected in a cubicle in a lab and built essentially in a factory. So there's a couple of examples of some of the innovation, and I'm hoping that over the next 7 years, as we put our measurement systems in place and we track our footprint and we track our benefits, that these are the sorts of things that you're going to see from Dell Computer, these and more in all spaces, not only the server space, but desktops, laptops, thin clients, the whole notion about what computing is and where it's done and where you are during the day in Starbucks, and you're getting all your work done without having to drive 20 miles to your office to get it there. Why don't I end it there? And